You want to know what I don't like about Walmart? It's just so big. Like, that store is huge, right? Like, if you go in there for two things, you need to take a scenic tour to get anything you want. Like, if you want milk and cough drops, you're going to get a lesson on the latest trend in baby fashion, and you're going to know what the sale price is for yarn this week. Like, I don't need to know that. Like, all I want is milk and cough drops or whatever I'm after. I don't need to go through this big scenic tour. So then I go to Giant Eagle. Now, Giant Eagle, like, they've got this much more focused approach, right? So Giant Eagle, groceries, pharmacy. That's it. That's all they got. It's great. No baby clothes, no yarn, nothing like that. Just this really focused, tight experience. You want to know what I don't like about Giant Eagle? Everything is just so much more expensive at Giant Eagle, right? Like, it's hard to justify paying this much for milk there when I know it's this much over here. That, and they changed the Fuel Perks program, and I don't know if it's better or worse. It was a lot of reading. I couldn't be bothered. So I don't even know. So then I go to Save-A-Lot. It's in the name of the store. I'm saving money just by walking in that door, right? Save-A-Lot. You want to know what I don't like about Save-A-Lot? They just don't have a great selection. Like, there's not a lot of variety of brands, and they got the basics down, but that's kind of it. Like, if I want something special or I want to try a different brand of something, they don't have it. So then I just do store pickup at Walmart because I don't even have to go into their store or see any human beings or anything. But you want to know what I don't like about store pickup at Walmart? Okay, you're seeing how this works, right? Anyone else, like, when you're going to the store to get, whether it's your weekly groceries or just a couple things, like, you're choosing where you go based on what you're after. Like, you're on a mission. Like, here's my list, this is what I'm after, and based on what you're feeling. Like, my feelings determine whether I go to Walmart or Giant Eagle or Save-A-Lot. And as the customer, that's my prerogative. That's my right, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have 3 different grocery stores in town. We don't even talk about Dollar General because their parking lot's awful. But it's really good that we have 3 different grocery stores in town that we can go to, and we get to choose what kind of experience we have, and we get to choose where we want to go based on how we're feeling. But that mindset starts to creep, and it starts to creep into other areas of our life. And in other areas of our life, that mindset might not be okay. Like, particularly, that mindset can creep into our approach to church. So it shows up in the way we talk. Like, sometimes if someone's looking to attend a new church, they might say, oh, I'm church shopping. Or maybe when someone comes in and they open up the bulletin and they see the list of events and programs, they're looking at it as like a menu of goods and services. And they're trying to see, okay, what here will give me the kind of experience I want? What here will benefit me? What here will be good for me? Or maybe we leave a church service and we say, man, the Spirit was really moving today. And really, we just mean that we liked the music today. Like, that's that kind of mindset that starts to leak in. And I have to wonder, like, that's probably not the way Jesus wants us to approach his church, right? He probably wants us to have a different way to approach his body. I mean, you guys know the answer to that question is right. So, like, what's the mindset? What is the mindset that Jesus would want us to approach his body with if it isn't that sort of mindset that we approach everything else with? So I want to sum up that mindset with just one word. And it's this one. It's we. We. You see, when you choose whether you're going to go to Walmart or Giant Eagle or Save-A-Lot, that mindset is summed up in one word also, but it's actually just one letter. It's I. It's me. It's all about me when I'm going to Walmart. It's all about me when I go to Giant Eagle. And you know what? They want it to be all about me. That's the thing. Like, they want me to think only of me when I go in that store and sell me things and the things I want and the things I desire. But not when we come to the church. When we come to the church, and I don't just mean coming to this place. I mean, when we approach this idea of the body of Christ, the mindset that God would want us to have is we. So let's unpack that a little bit in Philippians 2. So if you got your Bibles, go ahead and find Philippians 2. It's in the New Testament. Philippians is a letter that Paul wrote to the church in Philippi. And I tell you what, it is a letter. Like sometimes when we read some of Paul's letters, we get really caught up, I want to say, in the theology dump, so to speak. Like there's so much content and it's so thick with concepts for us to understand. And Philippians is too, but he's talking to real people here. Like he tells them they're doing pretty good. See, the whole theme of Philippians is this idea of a common life. Loving one another, sharing life, being generous. And so at the beginning of the letter, Paul expresses this incredible gratitude he has towards the Philippian church. He commends them for being so generous and how much they've cared for him. Like Paul has a special bond with these people. He has this special we sort of relationship with them. The Philippians are doing pretty good at we, and Paul's telling them about it. And if I can take just a moment here, Paul's telling the Philippian church that they were doing pretty good at we. I want to say, so are you doing a good job at this concept of we. Like I've seen you be generous. I've seen you be loving. I've seen you stand up for people when they're having a hard time. Like you are doing a good job of we. I love our church. And I love all of you. And it's because we've seen this kind of we bond joined together. And so here's Paul writing to the Philippians who are also doing good at this we. And this is what he says. Make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you not look to your own interests, but to the interests of others. So right before this, Paul sort of asks some rhetorical questions of them. Like Paul says, like, have you been encouraged while you follow Jesus? And I want to say the Philippians are saying yes, just as we might say, yeah. By following Jesus, I have felt an encouragement in my spirit. And he says, have you experienced the comfort of his love? Yeah. They're saying yes. Has he given you a tender, caring heart? Yeah, he's given us a tender, caring heart. Then make my joy complete by having the same mind. Agree with each other. Work with each other. And we want to say, yes, Paul, we'll do that. That's awesome. We'll do it. So then we'll just spend the rest of the service hugging it out and telling each other how much we love each other. I'm glad none of you seemed to get too worried when I said that. But based on what we just read, the Philippians, and what we just said about the Philippians, like they were doing pretty good. They had this special bond with Paul. They had this we sort of bond. And so we might think that, yeah, they hear that instruction from Paul, and it's just case in point to continue on the way they've continued on. But Paul feels the need to tell them that. Like he tells them, you've done so good and you've experienced the restoring love of Jesus and you've had this incredible growth in your walk with him. And there's just one thing I'd love you to do to make me happy, to make my joy complete, to be of one mind. And he's telling them, because even though we can walk with Jesus and know Jesus and love Jesus, this is where we can still get hung up. This being of one mind with other people. Like, I don't know about you, but when I look across the world, like at everyone, there's some people I ain't ever agreeing with. Like, I can't imagine agreeing with anything on them. And we might think, well, the church is different. Like, the church, we're in agreement in the church. But if you've been a part of a church for any length of time, you know that ain't true either. Like, you discover pretty quick that some of those people that you can't agree with out there are actually in here. oops, who let them in, right? But this is the really amazing thing. This room that might be full of people with natural disagreements is the exact type of group of people that Jesus was seeking out to create. A group of people that might have some differences is exactly what he did. So check out Matthew 10. And we're going to have it on the screen, so you don't necessarily need to flip there if you don't want to. Because we're going to be in Philippians again later. But this is a list of the apostles in Matthew 10. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. So these are the guys, when Jesus made this first community, this is who it was. And there's some really kind of fun things hidden underneath all of this. So you've got James and John, the son of Zebedee. So elsewhere, it's said that their nicknames were the sons of thunder. And we don't really know why exactly Jesus referred to them as the sons of thunder. All we do know is that there was this one time where some people were giving him a hard time, and they asked Jesus if they could call down some fire from heaven to burn these people alive. Okay, Jesus scolded them for that. Like, hey, not the approach we're going for here, guys. Let's rethink this a little bit. So sons of thunder kind of fit. Maybe a little brash, maybe jumping in, maybe taking offense where they don't need to take offense, all this kind of stuff. And then you've got two other people that have a name attached to them. You've got Matthew the tax collector, and then you've got Simon, who in the NRSV is called the Canaanian, but in the Bible in front of you, it might say Simon the Zealot. So these two titles aren't included by accident. So Matthew the tax collector. Tax collectors worked for Rome. Like who was getting the taxes they were collecting? It was Rome. They were Jews who had come to work for the Roman Empire, and people didn't like them because Rome gave them every right to say, the taxes are whatever. We'll make up a number. $500 a person is the taxes. But if you want paid a little bit more for this job, charge them $7. If you want paid a lot more, charge them $1,000. And so tax collectors weren't really looked on kindly because they were swindling people, first of all. They were robbing them. And second, they chose to work for Rome. Rome, this empire that had taken over their country, supplanted their government, and become this controlling body. Taxes go to them. They picked the king. Everything was all about Rome. Yeah, so he's robbing you, and he's working for the enemy. If you were a tax collector, you were on Rome's side. So meanwhile, you've got Simon the Zealot. And zealots actually sort of referred to this sort of unorganized group of people who wanted to violently overthrow the Roman government. They wanted to drive them straight out of Israel. So they'd attack Roman soldiers in kind of a guerrilla warfare sort of style, and then they'd kind of stand in the streets and encourage other people to join them in their fight against the oppressors. When Jesus got them all in a room at first, do you think Matthew and Simon agreed on a lot of things? I don't think they probably did. I think they certainly agreed on politics. One guy's working for the government. The other guy wants to burn it to the ground. I think they probably disagreed on some social issues. But you know what the one thing they agreed on? Jesus and their desire to follow him. That was the one thing they agreed on. And this is what's really incredible. See, Jesus calls the tax collector and the zealot to come into the same room together to follow him because he has a better identity for both of them. It's not an identity that comes up overnight. Matthew and Simon probably didn't always agree from the very beginning, but tax collector and zealot weren't the identities that were to define them anymore. Followers of Jesus, disciples, apostles, family. They were united as we. So I think we see this dynamic pretty beautifully in our church, in our small groups. So if you've been a part of a small group, you've probably been in a room with someone that you didn't agree with everything on. And that's great. So I love my small group. They're the best small group because they're mine. So I love my small group. And so just real quick, I warned them about this. Could I get everyone who's been in my small group in the winter and in the fall to stand up? All right, everyone who's sitting, I want you to look around. Have you ever seen a weirder group of people before? This is a weird group of people. It's bizarre, isn't it? Why is there any reason for these people to be in a room together? There isn't. Except there is. It's Jesus. Okay, you guys can sit down. Sorry. Like Jesus is the only reason for these people to be in a room together. That's it. I always marvel at that. Like every Monday night when everyone leaves, I'm like, I do not thank God that you're gone, Dave. Oh, man. No, I do thank God because I'm like, how do I get to be a part of this? Like, how do I get to sit in this room with this, I say strange because they just don't have a lot naturally in common other than Jesus. Like, I feel blessed and honored to be a part of that group. I feel blessed and honored that that group meets in my living room every Monday night. These are the kinds of communities that Jesus is looking to build. Not uniform, not all looking the same, not all talking the same, not all agreeing on all the same things, but letting one fact determine their unity, their we. And it's that they love Jesus and they desire to follow him. That's it. Everything else takes a back seat to that one simple fact. It's incredible. So when Paul is asking the Philippians to agree with one another, it's under this banner of Jesus. There's going to be differences. Differences in the way we talk, differences in the way we dress, differences in our backgrounds, differences in the way we think. But is there an observable unity in us as a band of followers of Jesus? So Paul continues to sort of flesh out this concept in just a few verses later. Philippians 2, 5 through 8. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be exploited, but emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, being born in human likeness, and being found in human form, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. The same mind that we're supposed to have, it's Jesus' mind. It's humble. It's self-sacrificing. Elsewhere in Scripture, before Jesus, we're called the enemies of God. He gave himself up for his enemies. In the we of church, everything else in us takes a backseat to our love for one another. Everything else. our political points of view, our social points of view, our likes and dislikes. Man, if we're being honest, we are very much driven by our preferences, like with grocery stores. We're driven by what we like and what we don't like. Because our bonds, we're more than just people who are attending an event together. We're more than people who are a part of a social club together. This isn't the Moose. This isn't any other club in Titusville. There's a reason why we call this our church family. It's not just language. It's not just the way we would talk, like, oh, we're like, so there's that old joke that if a secular workplace says, we're like family here, you should probably run, right? There's that whole joke. Like, this isn't that kind of thing. Like, this is genuine love and care for each other. So every Sunday, Katie and I go over to her parents' house for lunch. And Katie has a large family. She is one of 6 siblings, and then there are spouses and children on top of that. So, like, if everyone's there on a Sunday after church, we're talking like just a little over 30 human beings in the house. I'm an only child. It's fascinating to me. Like, I don't even know how to process everything that's happening around me, right? Like, it's just incredible. It's incredible. And so we gather together because we're family. So let's suppose one week, Katie and I just don't come over. We don't come over, we don't tell anyone, we just do whatever. Well, probably before the day's over, someone's going to call us and check on us and see how we're doing. And let's suppose we're like, yeah, things have just been really crazy anymore, and I don't think we're going to come over on Sundays anymore. The silence on the other end of the line would be deafening. But then probably there'd be a, why? Well, we just haven't been liking what you've been fixing for dinner lately. And we might be uninvited at that point. And like last week when we were there was someone and they were a little antsy about something, and they kind of ranted about this thing, and I didn't really agree with them and like it. So listen, we're just going to find our own lunch now on Sundays. That would be grossly inappropriate, wouldn't it? Like, ridiculously inappropriate, because it misses all the reasons why we gather there. We don't gather there to eat. We don't gather there to have stimulating conversation, although stimulating conversation and eating certainly happens. We gather because something special happens in the we of family. That's why we gather. Friends, this is the exact mindset that we're called to have in these gatherings. This is the exact mindset that we're called to have in the church. We gather together because we're called to worship Jesus, and our commitment to him has grafted us into a family. That's what this is. It's a family. And so I know that you think this about whatever. Man, I love you so much. I know this one thing you do really annoys me, and I don't like when you're in this classroom this week and I come in the next week and it's all whatever. But it doesn't matter because I love you anyway. And that bond is tighter and thicker than we make it out to be so often. So this is beautiful, though. Can I see this kind of thing in our church? I see this kind of thing amongst us. I've seen you take up for one another when someone's been hurting, when maybe a relationship fell apart and things broke all around them, or something really unexpectedly bad happened. I see you surround people and love them. I've seen you been crazy generous to each other. opening up your wallets to help someone who is in need. I've seen you take genuine interest in each other out in the lobby. Have conversations that are more like, hey, how you doing? Oh, not very good. Talk to you next week. Like genuine interest. Like, what's going on? I've seen you pray for one another. I've seen you gather up in huddles after church or gather up at the altar and pray for someone who is going through a hard time. I've seen you in 30 days of prayer and on Tuesday nights kneel at these altars and love the people on the other side of these blue cards. So a perfect example of this is, you might have seen earlier this week, there was a post in our Facebook group, and it was someone who was interested in coming to church. And so maybe you saw that, maybe you didn't, but they were coming to church, and they kind of gave a little bit of their background, maybe had a couple questions. And so I saw the post pretty quick, and I was like the second person to comment on it, and I exchanged some messages with the person. So that night, I'm telling Katie about the post, and I'm going to go find it on my phone. That was the second comment. When I got to it, there were 23 comments, and they were your comments. And not only were you expressing love and hospitality towards this person who was asking about coming for the first time, but you were expressing love to each other in every comment. Like, these are some of the comments. And every time you hear the words T-Free Church or T-Free, it's not a building, it's you. It's you. It's all the people in these pews. T-Free changed my life. I love everyone there. They're welcoming, supportive, and truly caring people. That's you. This is, remember, we're responding to this person. We will make you and your children feel right at home. You'll love T-Free Church, you, and feel the love of Jesus there. I teach the kids during church, and I always enjoy having new kids. I'm excited for you, T-Free, you, has people that show their great compassion to others who will help you through your journey. T-Free, you, is great. And that is where we have gone for years, and you can sit with us if you'd like. It's pretty great, isn't it? Like, there's a we in those comments. It's not just hey, yeah, come to church, and the worship team will play some great music, and you'll hear a relevant word, and you'll go home feeling so great. It's like, no, you're getting invited to be a part of a we. You guys are awesome. We love one another together. We love others together. We face challenges together. It's not someone else's challenge. It's not someone else's issue. It's our issue. It's our challenge. We, together. So maybe you're here this morning, and maybe you've been here a long time, and you have just sort of done this. This hasn't been a we for you. It's been a place you go. Today's the day to take a step. Take a step further. Today's the day to give yourself to the we of church, the we that Jesus has created amongst us. Maybe you're here this morning and you've been here a couple times, or you're here for the first time. Maybe you came last week on Easter and you're here today, and you heard whatever. Like it was going to be a great service or whatever you heard. Keep hanging around, because it's not going to be long before you fall in love with the we that's in this room, but also before you fall in love with Jesus. And so maybe you're here this morning and you really want to be a part of the we. All you got to do is talk to our Father, because He's been waiting for you. He's waiting for you with open arms. So I'm going to invite you to pray this morning. So bow your heads and close your eyes with me. If you're here this morning and you get this sense that the Father has just been waiting for you, and when you walk through these doors, and when you came to that pew, and when you experienced worship and the Word was opened, if you felt like something is going on inside me and I don't know what it is, it's the call of Jesus. Jesus invites you this morning to commit your life to him. And so there aren't magic words. If there was a scripted prayer or magic words, then this would just be a club. But it's not. All you got to do is pray to him and say, Jesus, forgive me for my sins. I trust in you and I want to follow you for the rest of my life. You say that in your own words, and you're in the we.